raising concerns. Many people asking why he's assembling a team that seems critical of the very agencies they are tasked with overseeing, and there are other fears as well. So here to discuss this is comedian and contributor at the Daily Beast, Dean Obeidallah, and CNN political commentator Ben Ferguson. Let's just start with your article that you've written, Dean, about how what your big fear is that you see this as the most anti-Muslim administration ever.
I think
your evidence?
Objectively speaking, we've never had an administration that's spewed this kind of open anti-Muslim rhetoric, starting at the top with Donald Trump, who said Islam hates us, to saying thousands of Muslims cheered on 9/11 in New Jersey, even Giuliani said that was true.
But he won. I mean, he said all that. We know that during the
But now he's building.
See people who are saying things still.
Oh, he's building a dream team of anti-Muslim hate there. You've got Michael Flynn, national security advisor, who said Islam is not a religion. I just watched the tape again last night. The idea that one of the Abrahamic faiths is not a religion, it's a political ideology, a faith practiced by thousands of Muslim Americans serving bravely in our military now, is stunning and shocking. You've got Steve Bannon from Breitbart, who gave a platform on his radio show and Breitbart.com to the most anti-Muslim bigots out there. People who are the equivalent of the Klan to our community, from Pam Geller to Frank Gaffney to demonize us, saying Muslims shouldn't be in the government. So it's a very concerning time. And then Ben Carson, the newest one, who said a Muslim should not be president because Islam is inconsistent with the Constitution. You have this, and my fear is they turn this into policy. And that in any event, it's ginning up fear. We have a spike in hate crimes the last 2 months against Muslim Americans. It's just 2 Muslims in New York, an MTA person and a police officer. So that's my fear, that we go beyond this rhetoric, and it does more than spike in hate crimes, turns into policy.
Ben, you laughed off this critique as Dean was giving it. Why?
It's a lot of fear-mongering going on here with no policies that have been implemented or even advocated for that would give us any indication that any of this terrifying news that he just said is going to become anything close to reality.
But the statements don't bother you?
The statements that he's talking about, some of them have been taken out of context. When Flynn was talking about Islam, he's talking about radical Islam. He sees it through the perspective as being in charge, let me at least finish, with the military, of actually dealing with real Islamic extremism. And I think what you have here is you have an all-star team that's been put together to fight radical Islam, extremists, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, etc. If there's a dream team here, it's a dream team that many Americans said, look, for 8 years we tried the other idea. Let's go around the world and apologize. Let's close down Gitmo, and then people, extremists, will somehow not hate us as much. Let's pull out of Iraq and Afghanistan, and then somehow Muslim extremists will stop attacking us. It did not work for 8 years. You had the rise of ISIS, and even Obama said this week, yes, it caught him off guard because they didn't want to deal with the reality. There are extremists out there. They are doing horrible, god-awful things around the world. And so, yes, you do have a dream team of people that hate radical Islam extremists, and they're going to do a great job of going after them, and that's what the American voters said they wanted.
Ben, there's no place to be an apologist for hate. There's no place to laugh when people are suffering hate.
I'm not apologizing for hate.
You clear that because you're saying they're talking about radical Islam. Ben Carson didn't say radical Islam. He said a Muslim American should not be president because Islam is inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States. Michael Flynn, I watched his speech last night in the totality. He said Islam is not a religion. He said Islam is not a religion.
Ben Carson. Let's deal with Ben Carson for a second. Ben Carson, if you look at Sharia law, it does not coexist. It cannot coexist with our Constitution. When if you look at what he was saying in context.
Yeah, then you can quantify that. I don't want Sharia law in America. I don't want Christian law in America either. I don't want the Bible or the Quran the basis of U.S. law. I hope you agree with that. The Bible shouldn't be the basis of U.S. law either. That's a different discussion. The reality is, Ben, people are suffering in this country. We had an off-duty New York police officer this week. They hate crime against her. The person was arrested, calling her a terrorist. An MTA officer, a worker, pushed down the stairs, a woman wearing a hijab, by guys said, get out of this country.
And let's be clear. I condemn that the same way you do, but you also have not mentioned any of the crimes that have been committed in this country, whether it was a Draw Muhammad event, whether it was the Fort Hood multiple shootings there, whether it was other Muslim extremists who decided to do things out in San Bernardino, etc. You haven't mentioned those either, so it's on both sides.
Right, but we are talking about the cabinet. There's been over 800 hate incidences, not all hate crimes, documented by the Southern.
Ben's making an interesting point that you need to hear, which is he is countering what you're saying is being done to Muslims by saying what's being done to white people in this country. And that's part of the resolve of this election, which is white people feel that they're being victimized by Islam. And part of the justification, unless I'm getting you wrong, Ben, is now it's our turn.
Not just white people, everybody. I mean, you look at the people that have been shot and
nobody more than Muslims,
with knives.
Nobody more than
Muslims. But Muslims that have done this, they've attacked all people. They've attacked young, old, African-American, white, Hispanic. They don't care who their targets are. And so that's why this cabinet to me is not scary, or the voters
It's
who vote for Donald Trump.
One gets worse than the other. Steve Bannon shouldn't be there. We all know that. Ben, the number one
Give me
victim,
one policy.
the number one victim of ISIS by far are Muslims. Over 95% of the victims of ISIS. We want ISIS defeated as much as everyone else does. Donald Trump's rhetoric saying Muslims are hiding terrorists in our midst. We see bombs in people's homes, which was not true. Again, a figment of his imagination.
Let's be clear.
But Ben, let's be shoulder to shoulder
The
in the fight
victims in the
against
United States of
ISIS.
America, the victims in the United States of America have not been 95% Muslim. And so I'll go back to the core point here. This is fear-mongering. This cabinet has not put together, and you cannot tell me one policy that you're terrified of. You're just saying you're terrified of these people because they won and you lost.
All right, but hold on. Let's also be
that's not
clear.
what I'm saying.
There are no policies, Ben.
They're not
because
in
the
office
administration's
yet.
not in office yet, so
Right.
that's a little clever. And Dean's point
But
goes
they-
to
but no, but
you're
they-
going to
they
design
advocated
policy
for a
based on
policy.
what you believe, and there's a lot of concern and fear about Islam and Islamophobia in some of these picks. But you're right. We'll have to see what they do. But it's not wrong to discuss the possibility of what they might do based on what they seem to believe. Ben, Dean, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's a lot of news going on right now. Let's get to it.
By the way, you glad I ran for president? I think so, right?
Trump will stay on as executive producer of The Celebrity Apprentice.
Donald Trump doesn't need this money. Why not divest from it?
Rebuilding this country with American hands by American workers.
Fake news can have real-world consequences. This isn't about politics. Lives are at risk.
We're not going to be the stupid people anymore, folks.
He's a climate science denier.
These are talented people, smart people.
The president-elect has continued to make deeply troubling choices.
I want people that made a fortune because now they're negotiating with you, okay?
This